Today is January 27th, 2021, and I appreciate everybody being here today on this Wednesday. The week might feel like it's moving slowly because last week was 4 days and it's been very rainy and gloomy outside this week, but believe it or not, we are almost halfway through. When you guys are done with this class, we'll be exactly halfway through. Today we're going to cover unicellular adaptations, and this is the third day of our second unit. We've got one objective today, and it states that biologists will be able to explain how specific cell adaptations help cells survive in particular environments. So we want to know, how do specific adaptations help unicellular organisms to survive? We should be able to answer that question by the end of today's lesson. But as I said, the warm-up the warm-ups will be more and more important for our class because they give us an opportunity to kind of gauge what we know and what we understand about each lesson. And they're also preparing us for our exam. So one of the warm-up questions you all had today asked, which organelle and organ system pair are the most similar in function? Let me see. What should I do? See if this works. So which organelle and organ system pair are the most similar in function? A, is it the nucleus and the respiratory system, which is the lungs? Is it B, the cell wall and skeletal system, which would be the bones? Is it C, the plasma membrane and nervous system, which would be the brain and spinal cord? Or is it D, the ribosomes and circulatory system, which would be the heart and the blood vessels that carry blood? I've got two answers so far. Remember, we're looking for the organelle and organ system pair that is most similar in function. Thank you, Chandler. Thank you, Jason. I'm still waiting on answers from everybody else who's in the call.
Wait, can you repeat the answers?
Yeah, I can also send it to the chat. Let's see if it works this way. So you did have this question in your warm-up. So I just want you guys to really think about, you can send the same answer that you answered in your warm-up, or you can kind of think about it differently. Thank you, Michaela. I've got your answer as well. So let's take no more than 15 seconds. Thank you, Brianna. I appreciate it. For those of you who are still not yet in the Nearpod, it is not too late to join. Thank you, Alex. All right. So we've got 5 answers, and of those 5, and looks like Jason, you just changed your answer. So out of those 5, we have got 3 people who've answered correctly. I'm going to share Brianna because she's at the top. All right, so the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. The cell wall and the skeletal system. Uh-oh. Did I make a mistake? Not sure. How do I get out of this? Okay, cool. The cell wall and the skeletal system are most similar in function. And remember, the skeletal system is our bones. The cell wall is going to provide structure and protection for specific types of cells, specifically plant cells. Just like the bones in our body provide us with structure, support, and protection. All right, so they work in, they have similar jobs. They do similar things. The cell wall gives a plant cell its rigid support, just like our bones give us rigid support. They really are what determine the shape of our bodies. Okay. Now, if you're looking at the Nearpod, or if you're able to see my screen, you might see these small green shapes that are really kind of throughout this entire picture. What do you all think those green things are? What are those green things? Any ideas? Excellent. Thank you, Rudy. Those are indeed chloroplasts. Excellent. So we know that they're chloroplasts because chloroplasts have a special pigment that turns them green. And a chloroplast is responsible for photosynthesis. Good job. All right. One more warm-up review question. Different cells have different structures to give them different functions. For example, certain types of white blood cells have a lot of lysosomes in order to break down pathogens like bacteria and viruses. Of the following types of cells, which would you expect to have the highest concentration of mitochondria? And I can do the same thing I did last time, try to put all of this into a question. See if that works. So I sent it to the chat, but I also just made an open-ended question on Nearpod, so hopefully it works both ways. But of the following types of cells, which would you expect to have the highest concentration of mitochondria? I've got an answer from Brianna. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Rudy. I've got your answer too. Thank you, Jason. Let's get some more answers flowing in. I want you guys to really keep in mind these are the same questions from your warm-up, so hopefully you've already thought about them. You kind of already remember what you answered just 20 minutes ago. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Imani. Okay, we've got answers kind of coming in all over the place here. Thank you, Kadaria. I'm going to go ahead and share Kadaria's answer because she did answer it correctly, and I appreciate those of you who did participate. So as we can see, the correct answer is A. Muscle cells have the highest concentration of mitochondria. Now, this was a difficult question because it kind of forced you to think beyond just, number one, what are mitochondria, but also make a connection to the body's cells. So hopefully you remember that mitochondria are organelles that are the powerhouse of the cell. They provide all the power for the cell. And of course, our muscles need a lot of power. Even a small movement, like a movement of your index finger, requires a lot of energy. So muscles and muscle cells specifically have to have a lot of mitochondria to give them a lot of energy, a lot of power. All right, so those of you who said A, excellent thinking. Those of you who are still a little bit confused on that, we will continue to review our organelles and start to make some connections. Again, I want you all to get used to this type of question, the difficulty of this question. There were a lot of words in this question that really weren't even relevant to the answer, but we've got to get good at being able to identify those important words. All of this stuff in the first sentence really didn't help. It wasn't relevant to the answer. We just needed to know that a mitochondrion or mitochondria are responsible for producing power. So which type of cell needs a lot of energy, needs a lot of power? Muscle cells do. All right. Here's an image of mitochondria that you can see in a muscle cell. They look kind of like zigzag structures, but they're actually, they are mitochondria, and they're there to produce energy for muscle cells. Okay. Now, here's where we're going to start our note-taking process. So you all know I'm big on notes. I need you to have your notebooks out. As I told you yesterday, when I had my one-on-one meetings with various students, what I learned was that the students who are performing at the highest level right now are those students who are taking the most and best notes, and they're also reviewing their notes. So I want to encourage you all to make sure you have your notebook out. You're paying attention to the highlighted words. You're trying to write down as much as you can. Okay. So today, like I said, we're talking about unicellular adaptations. Multicellular organisms like you and I, and like most of the life on planet Earth, have organs and organ systems and tissues that help them to perform specific life functions. Remember, we've got those 8 life processes: Sternger, synthesis, transport, excretion, respiration, nutrition, growth and development, reproduction, and regulation. So for example, human beings, we've got these organ systems that allow us to do those various processes. But a unicellular organism does not. But before we talk about that, can you all help me name some of these organ systems? What would be this first organ system on the far left? Which organ system is that? Feel free to unmute yourself if you know the answer, so you don't have to spend time typing it. Which organ system is this on the far left? What are we looking at here on the far left? Very first image.
Skeletal?
Yeah, thank you, Brianna. So that's the skeletal system. And the skeletal system, obviously, like we just said, has the important role of providing support, structure, and protection for our bodies. Without a skeleton, we wouldn't be able to stand up, right? Okay, so what about this next one? We can see the brain here. Does anybody know which organ system this is? The brain, and we can see all of these nerves shooting out from the brain.
Nervous.
Excellent, thank you, Rudy. Yeah, so this would be the nervous system. Obviously, the primary function or primary role of the nervous system is communication. Not only to tell your body what to do and then when to do it, but also to sense things, right? We've got sensory neurons that tell us how hot something is when we touch it, or they tell us that we've got pain somewhere in our body. So the nervous system is really probably the most important. But the nervous system works closely with this next system. Does anybody know the name of this one? There could be multiple. They both start with C, typically. It's the heart and all of the veins and arteries.
Circulatory?
Excellent. Thank you, Brianna. The circulatory system, and it's called circulatory because it's talking about the movement of blood and how blood is pumped from one place in the body back to the heart, and then the heart will pump it back out to another place. And its really primary goal is to deliver oxygen. And this is why it works closely with the nervous system. Your brain has a constant need for oxygen. And I see, Jason, you also answered that in the chat. I appreciate it. Okay, what about this next one? We're looking at the nasal cavities, the larynx and the pharynx,
Respiratory.
the lungs. Good, thank you. I appreciate that, Imani. That is the respiratory system. Primary goal, of course, is to take in oxygen and also to get rid of carbon dioxide. What about this next one? It's pretty obvious, I think.
Digestive system.
Good. Digestive system, thank you. Primary role of that one is to be able to take in nutrients and also to get rid of waste. Again, works very closely with the nervous system as well as the circulatory system. So all of these are working in conjunction with one another. And then lastly, this one's pretty obvious. What is this last system here?
Muscular system.
The muscular system. Good. All right. So, like I said, multicellular complex organisms like human beings, like other animals that we can see outside, insects, even plants. We all have different organs and different tissues that allow us to accomplish different jobs. But unicellular organisms do not have those tissues or organs. They're literally just one cell. So they rely on special adaptations because they still need to be able to do those same 8 essential life processes. They still need to synthesize new material. They need to transport materials within the cell. They need to excrete waste. They need to regulate their internal environment. They need nutrition. They need to grow and develop. They need to reproduce. And they need to go through this process of respiration to create energy. So they still need to do all of the same things that we do. They just don't have as many special organs and tissues to allow them to do it. So instead, they have these adaptations. And we're going to talk about 5 of them today. Again, we really want to focus on writing down at the very minimum the things that are highlighted. Okay. So the first unicellular adaptation that we want to mention is called an eye spot. And just like our eyes help us to detect light, an eye spot is there to help unicellular organisms detect light. Now, it's not nearly as complicated as our eyes, which also help us to detect depth, how far something is from us. They also help us to detect color. These eye spots don't do that. They literally just say, is there light near or is there not light near? That's it. That's all they can do. So an eye spot is a photosynthetic protein that detects light and allows the organism to respond appropriately. Some organisms like light and they want to be close to it. Other organisms don't like light and they want to do all that they can to stay away from it. Okay, we can see an eye spot here in this euglena. It's really, really small. It looks kind of like just a red blurry spot on the euglena. Now, organisms will use these eye spots, like I said, to respond to light in one way or another. And the way that they respond, this is a process called phototaxis. Phototaxis. Phototaxis is movement in response to light. And again, we want to pay attention to the prefixes and suffixes that we can see. Movement is coming from that suffix of taxis, and light is coming from that prefix of photo. So phototaxis is movement in response to light. There are two types of phototaxis. Positive phototaxis is movement towards the light, like how a plant will adjust itself and angle itself towards sunlight. That's why it's always a good idea to try to rotate your plant so that all sides of it can get sunlight, because otherwise it will start to move, and then the plants on this side, the leaves on this side, won't get any sun. There's also negative phototaxis, which is movement away from light. We can think of this like when you turn on the light. Hopefully none of you have ever experienced this, but we do have some roaches at West Mac. And so sometimes I would come into my classroom in the morning and I would turn the light on and I could see a roach try to scutter away, right? They're responding negatively to the light. They're trying to run away from it. They prefer darker environments. So negative phototaxis is movement away from light. Positive is movement towards. I know, Abraham, it was not a pleasant sight, especially coming back after a long time, after a summer break. Yeah, you're going to run into about 7 or 8 of them. Okay. Okay, I don't have any questions built in, but this is kind of a cool feature, I think. Let's see this video. Hopefully it will play for you all.
The video shows a typical euglena.
So what you can see is that there's a source of light. You can't see it, but it's on the right side. You can kind of see how it's hitting the front face of this organism. So the organism is moving in response to that light. So this is positive phototaxis.
The organism moves.
All right, you guys get the idea. Cool stuff. The next unicellular adaptation is called a pseudopod. And again, we want to pay close attention to the prefixes and suffixes. So here we've got one prefix and one suffix. Pseudo typically means fake. In this case, we're gonna define it as temporary. And then pod means foot, P-O-D. So a temporary foot-like projection of the cytoplasm and cell membrane that allows an organism to grab and ingest food. So these organisms are not really quick. You know, they can't move easily. And what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, they're not quick, right? And they also exist in aqueous environments. So they live in liquid. So it's not easy to like swiftly move through liquid. So they rely on these pseudopods, which basically are just like growths that come out of them to capture prey, which they can then ingest. So again, we want to focus on writing down the highlighted words. In this case, this definition of a pseudopod, a fake foot that allows an organism to grab and ingest food. Okay, let's look at a quick video of this. So you can kind of see, now the thing in the middle is actually going to end up being the food. So you can see how the larger organism is, its pseudopod is stretching out. And it's eventually going to enclose the food. These aren't actually, okay, so yeah, you can see how it's now been enclosed and it will start to be digested now. So all those things that you're seeing in the middle of the organism are actually organelles. Those are vacuoles and mitochondria, lysosomes. The things that are moving quickly around it could also end up being food, yeah. But obviously this is a very, very microscopic view. So now that it's been enclosed, you're going to start to see how the organism is going to break it down so that it can be ingested. All right, it just goes on like that for a while. We'll move on. We've got about 27 minutes left, a couple more. Okay, cilia. So cilia, C-I-L-I-A, are tiny hair-like structures on a cell's external membrane, so they're on the outside of the cell, allowing for movement and the ability to sense the environment. So they've kind of got those two roles. They help the organism to move, but they also are like antenna. They sense things about the environment. How warm is the environment? What's the pH? How much salt is present in the environment? Is there potentially a predator near? Is there prey near? So they have two roles, really. So we can see a very close-up view of the cilia on the left. They look kind of like something you might see on the ocean floor. And then on the right, we can see how they look like hairs or whiskers sticking out from the organism. similar to a cilia and the role that it plays, but different in what it looks like is a flagellum. The plural of a flagellum is flagella with an A ending, but a flagellum is a whip-like structure that helps to propel the cell through its liquid environment. So the primary role of this flagellum is movement. Some organisms have multiple flagella, and then some organisms will only have one, or some cells only have one flagella. So this is an image of a sperm cell on the right. The sperm cell is able to move because of its flagellum. So here's some differences here. You can see the differences in how they are structured. The cilia are shorter. They appear all over the cell, whereas the flagella or flagellum, singular, is only going to stick out typically from one point in the cell. All right, so let's quickly take a look at another video. All right, and then our last one, the contractile vacuole. This is a storage sac that can hold water and then pump it out. And this helps to maintain pressure within the cell or also to help the cell move. So they look small, but they can expand in size so that they can take in water, and then they can contract, they can squeeze to pump the water out. Okay. Last video, and then you all have a few minutes, 15 minutes to work on your assignments. So we can see this contractile vacuole right here, taking in water. And there are several actually, a few in this cell. Remember, the goal is to maintain some type of pressure in the cell or to help the cell with its movement. So we can see that this cell does not have a flagellum that might help it move more easily through its environment. So these contractile vacuoles can also help with mobility a little bit as well. It's a weird world in the microscopic world. Oh, these weren't supposed to be shown, so we'll skip these. Okay. So we've got some things to work on. The assignments that are in yellow here are assignments that are from today, day 3. And then I also wanted to show you these assignments in green just so that you all don't forget that you still do need to do them. They've all been revamped a little bit to include some questions that are more similar to what you'll experience on the test. So please don't neglect to do those green assignments. It seems like a lot, but for the last couple of days of this unit, we won't have an assignment. Tomorrow will be our last new asynchronous assignment. So just make sure you're staying up to date. All of the assignments will be due on Monday, which will be test day. All right, so Monday is test day. Stay up to date so that you're not panicked in the last minutes. I will be here on mute if you have any questions, but please do make sure that you're working. Okay, folks, it's now 11:35, so you all are good to go and enjoy your lunch break. 30 minutes before third block. I hope you enjoy it, and I will talk to you later.